Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Shaostoul and this is another tutorial for modding space engineers. In this episode, we're actually exporting our block from Blender finally. Now, we just need to take care to make sure that we configure everything properly before we press that export button. So what we're going to do is open up Blender and look at what we got. Alright, so here we have pretty much everything we need for our model. We have our main model, our collision mesh. Make sure that this is enabled for it or else it'll have just a cube collision. We have our mount points, our mirroring all set up. We have our LOD model. We have our construction models. So here's number 1, 2, and 3. And now we just need to go ahead and make sure all the information here is ready to export. Now, I personally suggest that you set everything up in here to follow some sort of order so it's easier for you to follow, because you might have multiple scenes inside a single blend file, and if you just have everything named cube, it might become very confusing later down the road if you have to come back and edit things. So what we're going to do is we're going to edit these to reflect our block. So our block is the gyroscope. This is the name that you'll actually end up using in the cube blocks file to reference it. It's also important to note that none of the names here, except for the empties, actually matter. But you want to edit these to reflect something that actually makes sense to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to name I'm just going to select all the layers. We're going to name the main model after the actual block. So that's what we have. Now what we're going to do is take the collision model and do a underscore and go ahead and go COL for collision. I do caps because I like to identify it between the collision and the construction. Alright, so now we have the LOD model. As you can see, it's on layer 6. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go underscore LOD and 0. Alright, so that gives us our LOD. Now we need to do the construction. Now how do you probably want to set that up is probably more in a 1, 2, 3 format so that you know which one's the first and which one's the last. Because here I have it named 6, 7, 8, but that's the improper build path that I'm going to be using in game. So here I'm going to go with the first one. As you can see, it's on layer 11. I'm going to go and paste that and go underscore CON and 0. And I'm going to copy that just to make it easier. I'm going to select the next one, paste that in 1, and then select the last one and go 2. So that already makes things a little bit easier to understand at a glance. I can see I have my main model, my collision, my LOD, and my construction models. Alright, so now we need to make sure that we actually have the proper export folder. Now if you saved your model, so I save mine in a specific directory. I'm going to get rid of this for now. I save mine in a Blender saves folder on my extra hard drive. And inside I have a Space Engineers models. I open it up and I have all the blend files for all the models I've made. Now you see 2 folders here. One is models and one is textures. All of our textures actually belong in this folder if we're going to be linking to them properly and we want them to show up on our models. It's just easier that way. We could do it in the mod folder, but having this as a main reference area is a lot easier on us as we continue to mod more and more blocks. Now this models folder is actually very important. The path that happens in this folder and its subfolders is where your MWM files belong. So for example, if I open up one of my mods, let's go with my master pack, you can see it goes audio, data, models, and textures. These two folders here are these two folders here. If I open up my models file in the blend and my models file on my mod, you can see that I have most of the same named folders. Some of the folders in here are extras that I don't use in my mod packs. Some of them are, some of them aren't, etc. So what we want to do is we want to actually export into a gyroscope folder. And this is where all the MWMs are going to show up. And if I go into one of my sub packs here, like the force fields, you can see all the MWMs. Well, we don't have any of that yet, so we can't actually export anything. So what we're going to do is we need to actually make sure the export path is proper. So go ahead and click on this little folder here, and you'll probably be in this folder here, where it'll say, hey, these are your models folders that you're exporting to. Yours might go models large, and then you export into there, or models and then the name of the model, the mod that it's going to be in, and then there. Mine are set up so I can easily update all of my sub packs, and I just have to work in my master pack to get everything updated. So what I'm going to do is I made a gyroscope folder earlier, and I'm going to go ahead and export it into here. So I go into that subfolder and I press accept. And you can see that the information here is proper. If the export settings is red and it has a plus sign here, go ahead and press that plus sign and it'll properly set things up. Alright, so that's pretty much everything we need. As you can see, the gyroscope save is here. The models folder is here because that's right here at the beginning of our mod. So we want it to be in the models gyroscope folder, and that's how it's going to be in the mod for uploading. Alright, so we can go to layer 1, and we don't even need to select any specific thing, and we don't need to worry about this. All we do is we press this button right here, export. And what it's going to do is it's going to build all of the files necessary to get you the MWMs, which includes the FBX, the XML, and the HKTs. So the FBX originally was what we would use to actually export the model as. And then the HKT is a specifically exported FBX using a HKT format for the physics. And that could only be done originally in Maya and Max and a couple other Autodesk programs. But now with Hrog's plugin, we can do it all in Blender, and it's a lot easier. It's a lot less headache on you. And then the XML is generated from all the information we actually have here. So let's go ahead and open up that folder. And here you can see all the files. Here's the FBXs, and you can see that they all took this prefix here, LG underscore and SM underscore. So yours might actually go your block name and then underscore large. I have my mod set up, or my plugin set up to have the LG first, and that's because the way that I set up my mod folders. Okay, so here we can see our FBXs between the large and the small versions. And then we can see some log files, and these we never originally messed with. So these are specific to Hrog's plugin. Here we can see our HKTs. These are the FBX turned HKT. Here we can see all of our MWMs, our main model, our construction models, our LOD, and then the large and small version. And then here we can see a bunch of XML files. Now, most of the XML files are going to be what was used to generate the MWM originally. And if I bring this notepad over, you can see this is what the XML originally looked like. It would say, hey, this is the model name, the rescale factor. This used to be between either 1 or 0.01. I never messed with this or this. These settings specifically seem to be limited to DirectX 9. I've messed with them and I haven't really noticed anything in DirectX 11 show up, and that stands true for these as well. I used to use the specular intensity and power to get different effects, as well as the diffuse color X, Y, and Z. I use those to make darker versions of textures easier. But now I make sure that I leave most of these at 0, 0, 255 for these three. Sometimes I'll change these to like 100 and 100 for something that's supposed to look metallic, but for this it's easy to just leave it as it is. As you can see, this is the terminal. It is emissive, so if I add specular intensity and power, it's not really going to affect how it looks too much in game. But here you can see that the armor default actually has some specular power, but no intensity. Now, this name here are actually the material names here. So it's important to note that if you have material in your model and you export it and you don't give it one of these entries, if you're using Maya or Max, it's actually going to cause an issue and you might not actually get the model exported. And if you do, what might happen is you'll load into the game and it might crash as soon as you go to place the block down. So try to keep that in mind. But thankfully, because we're working in Blender, we don't have to worry about any of this stuff anymore. And here you can see the LOD model. So the LOD1 is going to change to this model at 10 meters away from the block. So about 4 blocks away, it's going to go to this, and we shouldn't really notice too much of a difference because of the way it all works out. If you're using a 4K monitor, you might definitely notice the difference, but using a 1080 monitor, I don't really notice too much of a difference. Alright, so I'm going to close that. And here we have another important XML file. So all of these are useless to us for the purposes of this tutorial. The only ones that are important to us are these block definitions ones. And if I scale this up, you can see that this actually gives us a bunch of information for our block already. However, we don't want to use all of this information because I like starting with the block code first and then prepping it for this information here. But we'll cover that in another video of actually building the cube blocks file. Alright, so that pretty much covers everything you need to know for exporting from building to configuring everything and actually getting your MWM files. You know how to do everything here now, so you can have every part of your model that you need, and the empties will take some getting used to for you, but that's okay. If you have any questions, send me a message, either on here or Steam or Discord or Skype or wherever you can message me from, and I will certainly give it a shot to try to help you out. The next video will probably be setting up the mod and the cube blocks file specifically. That way we can start working on getting it into the game. I will see you guys in the next video. You have a wonderful day. Bye.